Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this event with QLife. With me today, I have the CEO, Thomas Wartho. Topic today is the recently announced partnership with Hipro, an interesting tech and medtech company from China. As usually, if you have any questions, please post them below the video screen, and I will forward them to Thomas during the presentation. So with that said, welcome Thomas, and please carry on.
Yes, thank you for that, Klaus. And yes, the topic today is that we have signed, QLife has signed a letter of intent with a Chinese company called Hipro Biotechnology. And we're obviously very happy with that. And the background for meeting this company is that we, here in July, we were attending the AACC, the American Association of Clinical Chemistry meeting in Anaheim, California. And we went there to meet with different types of companies. We got a lot of interest from companies all over the world. And one of the companies that in particular were very interested was this company, Hipro Biotechnology. And funny thing is that they came to our booth many times. They asked a lot of questions. And we started to discuss a little bit about what they were doing and how they were viewing the future and the market in China. And essentially, this ended up realizing that we had what I call a shared vision on how we see that blood-based diagnostic solutions in the future should be applied in healthcare industry. And that was really nice. Hipro is a big company in China. They are not what I call a tier 1, so they are not one of the biggest. They are more likely a tier 2 or tier 3. But I think that's something that suits us really well, because when you work with companies around their size, you typically get a lot of attention because they need your technology. And they really want to sort of make an impact with your technology. And what we see is that Hipro is a technology company. They have good products themselves. They have an important position, but they also sort of, need our technology stage, what we have developed over the past many years. So I think the match there and the possibility to reach a very large audience in China is really, really attractive. In terms of course, right now, this is only a letter of intent. So the job for us now is to focus on finalizing, a real collaboration agreement. We hope to be able to do that before year's end. And that's basically the process that starts now. And I listed here a few of the important points of the collaboration. And what I think is probably most important for us in terms of this collaboration is that Hipro indirectly would finance quite a lot of activities related to regulatory. That's obviously something we have seen, know very well. That's very expensive to go through regulatory. And the really important term of this partnership is going to be that they will carry all the costs associated to the Chinese FDA approval process. So that's really, really nice. And obviously in China, I think it's well known that you need to work with Chinese companies to be able to do that fast and efficient. And I'm pretty confident that they will be able to do that. And then we have more or less agreed with them that the plan is to develop 3 biomarkers together, one of them being the CRP, C-reactive protein, that we already have developed, and then 2 additional biomarkers initially. I think most likely there will be many more to follow, but for this agreement, we will probably surface around 3 biomarkers in total to sign off on that. And probably from what we hear, it's going to be with some focus on heart diseases. That's something that that they already it's an area that they're well familiar with, and I think it will be in that field. But we haven't decided yet. And then, of course, we at QLife, we see this as an opportunity to basically access a very attractive market, the Chinese medical device market. It's a huge market. I mean, I looked at the numbers, and you know, it's in the billions of dollars, and it's very big, and it's growing very fast with an average growth rate of between 13 to 16%. We calculated here between, or estimated between 23 to 25. So it's going very quick, and they need products. And one thing that I think is or something that we have learned over the past few years is that these I call it emerging markets. I don't know if China any longer is categorized as an emerging market, but nevertheless, these markets that are still relatively young, we see that they have a big interest in accessing new technology that can make a difference. And we see that their medical structures, as opposed to, you know, the more traditional markets in the EU, for instance, it's much faster to bring something new into the market and get some level of acceptance. And that's also, we are in discussions with other potential partners in other countries, also related to emerging markets. And it's a little bit the same story. So very excited actually to be able to go this way, because we want our product to come into the market quickly and you know, basically make a difference and be applied related to, you know, we call it actually at-home hospitalization. I'll get back to that term, but that's something where we really would like it to be situated very as soon as possible.
Thomas, yeah, really interesting and major breakthrough for QLife and your brand Ego Health. Thomas, just you know, now it's a letter of intent, as you mentioned, and I know you are eager in you know, taking this into a final agreement and probably Hydro as well. Do you expect to close some kind of collaboration deal before New Year? Is that the intention?
Yeah, that is the intention. I mean, the plan right now is to go to China, not too long. We are discussing right now the timing of that, but we are going there to continue especially the commercial discussions. And of course, you know, to finalize all the legal stuff always takes time. But yes, absolutely, the plan is to finalize it ASAP and before the new year.
And well, then there's of course several steps in this final agreement. The most important step is that to get a CE mark or a CFDA approval in China for the system.
Yes, it is. It's by far the most important, because, you know, one thing we really have learned, and I can say that from a lot of you know, heartfelt experience, that regulatory is really, really tough today. And that's also a little bit, you know, what I meant by these medical structures in EU and also in the United States, that it's really, really tough because it requires so much documentation and data, and to put it together actually requires a quite large organization. So it's hard. But here in China, you know, we are getting a partnership where they can carry a big part of that. As long as we are capable of sort of supporting that, they will carry the main part and all the communication with the authorities over there. So that is by far, and the estimated time plan for that is really to carry through and hopefully get a CFDA, as we call it, before end of next year. That's the plan.
Yeah, and so while you're doing that, and when you do that, you will also elaborate more on what other assays you're going to bring to the market. Yeah.
Yes. Once we have the final agreement, I expect that the final agreement will detail which biomarkers and which field is going to be focused. So we will announce that when we know. It's not 100% sure that it's decided before New Year. It could be that they will want to wait a little bit and maybe survey the market over there a bit. But I think it will be, because they seem to already know.
But this broadened scope is quite interesting, because if you together with Hybro develop 2 other indications or 2 other assays, are you able to bring them to other markets? So right now I know you work a lot on UK and Ireland. Is that the plan, or could you elaborate a little on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the plan. And one of the very interesting things about, companies, I always get a little bit surprised with these companies in the Far East, because they're, the resources they are capable of putting behind, for instance, an approval process is just amazing. And we saw it under COVID. I mean, all the antigen tests, or not all of them, but many of them that came from the Far East were actually CE marked out there, which I think is an interesting feature, because it's almost like they can CE mark quicker than we can. And that's definitely possible. And basically, I assume it's because they put a lot of resources behind it. And then, of course, it's possible. So yes, I mean, it is the funny twist is that it's actually possible that they will CE mark some of the products on our platform quicker than we can do here, and then of course we can apply them in Europe, and we can sell them in the markets that you mentioned.
So just to take one step back, so the final agreement is 100%, first of all, focused on China and the collaboration on the Chinese market. Could you elaborate a little on your technology, because I know you have a lean and mean sourcing deal, and well, it's always important to keep your intellectual properties, and the know-how in the company, and not transfer everything to the partner. I could imagine that's your thoughts as well, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you work with a Chinese partner, I think we all know that you got to be a little bit careful. It's obviously a balance, because you also want to access the market, and you need to you obviously need to go into the collaboration with a good spirit, and not being too suspicious about whether they want to copy you or something. But on the other hand, you also need to control that that's not going to be possible. So, our take on that is that initially, for the first 3 years, the intention is that everything continues to be produced at our end. Because in reality, nothing else is really possible. It takes time to set up production. And in the longer run, it is very possible that there will be some sort of an OEM agreement or other type of production agreement, where we will transfer parts of the EcoHealth platform. And of course, our reason for doing that would be really to decrease costs of especially the device, because that would allow us to do what we always wanted to do, namely to put it into the hands of consumers. And we need to have a good price structure to do that, obviously, so people can afford it. So in that sense, I see it as a win-win. But I can also say for sure there are parts of the technology that we will never transfer, and of course we will then make sure to control everything we can as far as possible. And of course, we have IP, which is quite strong, and that will also obviously be filed in China. And I think, although I'm no expert on that, my information tells me that in China they are starting to respect international IP, intellectual property law. And I think that's something they will have to do if they want to be an international player. So I think, that's going in that direction, and then we will have to see.
And in terms of financials, if you could elaborate anything about that. I know it's early days. Is it a partly funded CE mark, and then you get some royalties on top of that when they start selling the product?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't finally decided how the commercial structure will be between us. But what we have decided is that all costs associated with regulatory approval and sales and marketing and distribution in China will be on their part. And I think that's already quite big.
Yeah.
Then how we share revenue or whether we get a royalty in the end is something that we are going to China to negotiate with them. I think both structures are possible, and we will need to find out what makes most sense. But again, having them finance that our products are regulatory approved and potentially something that can play into other markets, I think is really, really strong.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. Please carry on. I know you got more slides with you.
Yeah, that's true. So I also wanted to spend a little bit of time on this term that we call at-home hospitalization, because it's a new emerging term that I think everyone will hear more about or in the future. I think it's something that society as a whole obviously needs to look at medical structures and how can we decrease cost, increase productivity and care for all of us. And one solution that we kind of bring to the market or bring to the table is that with our solution, you can obviously send blood data from the home. And that means that if a hospital wants to keep certain patients in their home, still hospitalized, but in their home, one of the requirements for being able to do that is that you can monitor the patients on a regular basis, not on all parameters, but on the most important blood data, and that's basically what we offer. And as I see it, we don't have a lot of competition there. The term is still relatively new, but there are pilots going on or starting up, both in Denmark, in the UK, and especially in China. It's actually something they work a lot with. And I think it's, excuse me, I think it's pretty obvious, because for all the society structures, more diseases, elderly population, there needs to be new concepts where, you can get data from the home as opposed to having to do all the normal routines and in the hospital. So I think that's something we will see more. How fast it's going to be implemented, I don't know, but we will definitely do what we can, and I think it's something that we will hear more and more about.
Super. Thomas, you mentioned in your recently updating to the market that you will work on CE marking in Denmark as well. Denmark is a part of the EU. Can you piggyback on this CE marking somewhere else? And when do you expect the CE mark to be in place?
Yeah, I mean, it goes both ways. CE mark is always important. So when you come to China and if you have the CE mark, it makes things easier. And that goes for many markets, including, for instance, India. In the US, it actually matters less because they have their own very strong FDA process. But in certain markets, it means a lot. And yeah, I mean, we have been struggling with this CE mark for a long time, not so much because of the technology platform, but more because of lack of resources to really bring it all the way. But I feel that we are in a good place now, and we will CE mark our CRP capsule. It's expected to happen during either Q1 or Q2 next year. We are working with North Zealand Hospital here in Denmark. They are really, really good partner. Access to patients and blood, which obviously is important for the clinical studies. So that's going well, and that's going to be. It's something that I personally is really, really looking forward to, because it's a big milestone for us to finally, get that self-testing CE mark and be the first company that brings immunodiagnostic platform into self-testing for ordinary people. So that's quite big actually when that happens.
And Thomas, there's quite a lot of questions about what other assays you're going to take into the market. And now we have this situation with China, but if we look beyond that, could you just very briefly repeat, you have said it before, you have CRP today, but you have plans in your pipeline for the next couple of assays.
Yes, I mean, we are working on, excuse me, hemoglobin A1C, which is the 3-month average glucose measurement, which is the diagnosis for type 2 diabetes, which is a very, very hardcore biomarker because it's the one that decides whether you have type 2. And a lot of people should that are in the sort of pre-diabetes stage really need that data, you know, to be able to understand where they are. And I would recommend a lot of people to monitor that data because you don't want to cross over into T2. That's not a good thing. And in order really to, you know, understand where you are, you need the data. Then we have lipids, which are all your cholesterols. You get four answers in one capsule. And then we have vitamin D, which is also, we all know it, an interesting biomarker. Are you too low? Something which is common for people here in the Nordics and many other places. And then we actually also are working on an interesting, a new biomarker called NT-proBNP, which is a cardiac biomarker if you have a heart disease. So it's something that we're looking at, but those are the ones that we are working on right now. And as you know, we are relatively active, especially in the UK, in the health practitioner field. And they have a big interest in A1C and vitamin D because a lot of their clients are very interested in monitoring those biomarkers, also related to chronic diseases. So in the UK, we are working. Sales are not high yet, but we do expect that once these two is on the menu, and you know, it's really important for us to have more than one biomarker. We need to have a menu. Not necessarily 10, that might be too much, but 2, 3, 4 that are critical or important for people. And I think we're getting there relatively soon into the new year.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. Do you want to carry on with your slides?
Yes. Actually, the term at-home hospitalization is something that we have been involved in before. And I found these pictures that are there. I think they are from 2019, where we actually were involved in a project at Herlev Hospital together with one of the cancer departments, measuring on quite sick, actually, kidney patients. And the idea here was to measure certain biomarkers from the home. And here I'm actually taking blood from the finger on the former healthcare minister, Magnus Heunicke, and the mayor of Denmark, Sophie Hæstorp. And they loved it. You know, they were really excited. As you can see on the last picture, there was a good atmosphere. So already at that time, we were talking about that. And, you know, but then came COVID. And everything stopped pretty much, and the whole thing took a quite different turn than we expected. But it's a little bit back to that, not necessarily with these very, very sick patients, but something similar or a little lighter maybe. But we'll see. And as I write here, it's going to be pilot studies, I think, in different countries, not the least in China, but also in Denmark and Sweden, and then we'll see how fast that will be implemented and accepted. Yeah, and so what I'm expecting here, just to sort of be very specific in terms of the plan forward, the go-to-market strategy. We expect now over the next first 3 months here to finalize the agreement, and then we will get into the regulatory process with Hypro, and we are gonna focus a lot on that because we are a small company still, and this partnership is potentially a big partnership. So there's we shouldn't be doing a whole lot of other stuff. We will continue to focus in the UK, especially with our health practitioners. But other than that, we think this is potentially where we should make sure to use the resources. And then in parallel, as we already discussed, it's important that we get this on CE mark in Denmark. That will only strengthen the situation everywhere. And in the end, hopefully towards the end of next year, we will be able to roll out together with Hypro in China. That's going to be very exciting, and start commercialization. And then, continue in the meantime, and that actually already is ongoing, focus on if there are good partnerships, nevertheless, potentially financed partnerships that we should be looking at. I think we can be a little more, I wouldn't say relaxed, but now that we have this partnership with Hypro, maybe the terms are increasing in terms of financing. And we'll see if there will be other partnerships along the way that we should be looking at in what I call the larger markets. So that we will evaluate. But otherwise, focus on getting product to markets in China and get the CE marking done. That's going to be major focuses.
Super, Thomas. Just a final question here about your financial situation. Could you just briefly update us on that? Because you have a BTU coming into the market now, yeah?
Yes, the situation is that right now we are running a so-called, we call it TO3, Tegningsoption 3.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the price on our share is so low that we don't expect that it will generate anything. Unfortunately, of course, we had hoped that that would be possible. So there's no doubt that we will later in the year consider to go out to the market and see if we can ask for some financing. That probably is going to be necessary. As I said, it would have been much easier to do it now, but that's our own fault. And now it's going to be a little bit different process. But nothing has been decided yet. And let's see what happens. But it's obvious that if this doesn't succeed now, we will have to do something
in the future. But on the other hand, you're probably able to bank a little on the good agreement you get, and then it's a different company story also.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
And also, this is my last slide, but I also just want to emphasize that we have always wanted to go all the way to the market, to the consumer market with our platform. That's the ultimate vision for EcoHealth, and that remains. But I think you can say that we have also learned that to do that is a big deal. There's a lot of barriers to market, but it is our intention to democratize access to clinical data, as we say here, for layman person. In the long term, it's unfortunately taking a bit longer than we had hoped. But I think what we're doing now is something that will really only continue to emphasize that we strive towards that. And obviously getting this whole system validated in the professional world with an at-home hospitalization focus is going to be very, very strong. It's going to validate, what we do. And then after that, at some point, it can take the final quantum leap into people's home. And obviously, the future is prevention, as I write here, because you wanna know your data, you wanna make sure you don't get sick, and monitoring specific, not a whole lot, but specific important blood biomarker data is just important for everybody. And obviously that's something we would like to contribute with. And as I write here, my last point, in the future, at some point, I think we will see that combining blood data with AI and other types of behavioral data will give you very, very precise data, which is important because precision and accuracy of your monitoring is always important, but it's also a way in the future to be able to understand a whole lot of things about your health better and maybe even to predict what's going to happen. So So I think this is the way. It's taking a bit longer than everybody expected. It has been a bit more expensive, unfortunately, but I think we're getting there. And again, I think this Hybro deal in China is maybe not initially what we had expected, but it offers a very big volume and a very big potential. And I think that's something we should take, and I hope it will be really, really good.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. There's a very specific question here for assays. So overall, are there any limitations of what you can do assays on? And can you do for testosterone? And I don't really know the word in English, so I say it in Danish instead, estrogen.
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, essentially, there's no limitations in terms of DNA, RNA, and protein. In other words, molecular and immunodiagnostic biomarkers. We've proven that COVID, SARS-CoV-2 obviously was an RNA biomarker, PCR. And what we're talking about now is protein-based immunodiagnostics. The only thing we cannot do is cell-based hematology. So we don't count cells like white blood cells or full blood counts. That's not our business. And that is also interesting, but it's related. It's technology-wise something else. So that we cannot do. But otherwise, all other types of DNA, RNA, and protein-based high and low sensitivity we have answers for. So it's a very versatile platform.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. So with that said, first of all, thanks a lot to the audience for all the good questions. And actually, we had a lot of questions today, Thomas. And secondly, of course, it's always nice to host you here live on our platform. And thanks a lot for participating and updating on the interesting letter of intent. With that said, I hope everybody will have a really nice Tuesday. And I will finish the event for today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.